Morning.
Good morning,
Hi.
Rachel.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. You have so many exciting things going on. Thanks for fitting me in.
No problem. No problem. I have a very busy day today. I have 4 podcasts to record today. So I'm like, oh, slow and steady in pace.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. I work with a organization here in Greenville. It's called Jasmine Road, and it's a recovery program for women who have been trafficked. So I do anything with them, such as exercise and nutrition. So right now we are talking about how are they going to feed themselves? How are they going to shop for food when they get out of the program and they're back on their own? And so the thing that really kind of touched me is that, these women, like, gas stations are their food source. And I was a little shocked by that. I don't know why, but I was. So for them to even imagine going in a grocery store and buying healthy, nutritious foods, they have no concept. They have no idea. And I think that is just a normal thought process and behavior for most of us Americans. We go into that grocery store and we're like, convenient, 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 but we're not reading those labels. We're not looking at the ultra processed thing that's going on in these foods. And I know that eating whole foods can be daunting, but it doesn't have to be. And I feel like with people like me and other women in this field, it's like we can make this feel doable and achievable and not so overwhelming.
Welcome to the Lift Oneself podcast, where we break mental health stigmas through conversations. I'm your host, Nat, and we dive into topics about trauma and how it impacts the nervous system. Yet we don't just leave you there. We share insights and tools of self-care, meditation, and growth that help you be curious about your own biology. Your presence matters. Please like and subscribe to our podcast. Help our community grow. Let's get into this. Oh, and please remember to be kind to yourself. Welcome to the Lift Oneself podcast. Rachel, I am so thankful you're here with me.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Will you join me in a meditation so that we can transition into doing this podcast and syncing our hearts, and also taking that mindful moment that we sometimes don't do for ourselves? And for the listeners, most are listening to this in audio form and usually driving or running. I would ask you not to close your eyes because I need you to use your visual senses so that you keep yourself safe and everybody else safe. Yet the other prompts that I bring myself and Rachel in, you're able to do in your walking and movement and focus. So Rachel, I'll ask you to close your eyes and you're going to begin breathing in and out through your nose. And you're going to bring your awareness to watching your breath go in and out through your nose. You're not going to control your breath. You're just going to observe the rhythm and how it feels inside your body. There might be some sensations or feelings that are coming up. Don't push them away. Let them come up. You're safe to feel. You're safe to let go. Surrender the need to control. Release the need to resist and just be. Be with your breath. Drop into your body. Just keep that awareness on your breath. Now, Rachel, I'm going to ask you in your mind to create an intention you want to bring forth in this conversation today and what you want to bring forth for the listeners. And when you've created that intention, I'll ask you to release it in your mind, allowing it to drop into your nervous system, down into your throat and voice, further down into your heart, into your belly, into your life force. Just keeping your awareness on your breath. allowing that intention to grow and surround you. Continue staying with your breath, allowing that intention to be embodied in all your cells, your thoughts, your voice, into your nervous system, into safety. Now, while still staying with your breath, at your own time and at your own pace, you're going to gently open your eyes while still staying with your breath. How's your heart doing?
It's very calm, which is nice.
Can you let the listeners know who Rachel is?
I am a person who has given myself to the idea of helping women, all the while suffering and struggling with these thoughts and feelings that I was never good enough. I was never in the right body. I was never in the right place. But I always knew that I wanted people to feel safe in their own body. And when I turned 40, I realized that it was time to let go of all those things. It was time to heal from my trauma. It was time to put a really authentic spin on my message. And since that time, since that awakening, since that kind of spiritual experience that I had when I turned 40, I've been on a mission to help women free themselves of the lies of diet culture, the lies that they believe about their bodies, about food and what food does to us. And so with amazing podcasts like you, I'm able to share my message. And a lot of times I do feel like, what am I doing? No one's listening. No one cares. But then there's that one woman that's like, oh my God, you're changed my life. Thank you. I never thought that I could go a whole day without berating myself or thinking about what this piece of food was going to do to my body, and just to live in their peace and their freedom. So even if it's just like literally one person at a time, I got to keep going.
Yeah. I always remind myself that is coined from Dr. Shafali. I've been
I love
following
her.
many years, and have been privileged to do work and events for her. And so her phrase is always 1 in a million. You touch that one person, and then that ripples the effect to all the other people. What I know to be true is that we're feeling bodies that think. So our energy is what is transmitted to each of us. So it's exactly what they say. It may not be the words, it's how it feels, how you make a person feel. And so it's really going in that energetic part. And it's difficult in the culture of social media and the culture of accomplishment and stats, that if you don't feel that there's this big number or this big rush of attention, what is the point? I don't feel a sense of worth. I don't feel a sense of contribution. I don't feel a sense like anything is happening with what I'm doing. So why am I still keep pushing this rock or keep moving this momentum when I'm not feeling that return? And like you said, you get these glimmers of, no, this one person is saying it and that one person. So really working with that validation inwardly rather than seeking it outwardly, which is much easier said than done. Because when you got to do the work, it doesn't feel good. And it's like, just, feel worthy. And it's not about the other people. And it's like, oh, it's validation. I'm looking for validation. And I'm not validating myself with what I feel fulfilled with presenting. We speak the same language. I do that same inner work with myself. So it's, a language of walking the talk of how do we shift our nervous system to be rewired of rather than seeking on the outside for that validation, it's where are we validating ourselves and comforting and soothing ourselves when big emotions and big experiences happen. And trauma, as you mentioned, is, I tell people, remove the word trauma because it's really been overused, and you change it to energy. There's energy that has been lodged in your body that has wired your nervous system in a way that is always in the defense mechanism. And if you understand your biology and if you understand the nervous system, the defense mechanisms are always going to look to protect you in a very negative way.
Mhm.
And so, without you realizing, when you identify with not being good enough and not feeling validated, that inner critic comes in and just amplifies the defense mechanisms of that language. And so rewiring your nervous system to come out of that fight or flight or hypervigilance, like you said, you're offering space for women to be curious about their own biology and be like, I can have a different language for myself. I can meet myself with a softness and a gentleness and really understand from the inside out what is going on and find safety within me rather than outside and grasping. And we are wired as humans to live in tribes. We cannot do this alone. We're not meant to be independent, and we're not meant to be dependent. We're meant to be interdependent. So still having our independence and still allowing there to be some dependency. It's merging the two to be interdependent. Where is it that I can have my autonomy and you can have your autonomy, and we can share our gifts because we all have a unique gift to contribute, and that's what diversity is. Before we started this podcast, you were talking about that you help women that have been trafficked, and you help them to go through a program. I take it well, actually, I don't know. I just know the food and the afterwards. Can you explain what that looks like and what it is that you do for these women when they're in that program of recovery and helping them transition from shifting their lifestyle?
Of course. So there's a beautiful organization here in Greenville, South Carolina called Jasmine Road, and I am one of their many community partners. And since last year, since moving here, I have aligned myself with them because having a healthy relationship with food is something that they just don't have. I mean, 99% of us don't, but it is a way for me to give back. And by helping these women, I have, I've decided, or we've decided together that this year is going to be focused on nutrition, because a lot of times when the graduates are back out on their own and taking care of themselves, that part of their recovery can feel daunting and feel overwhelming. And I just hope to lighten that load a little bit by educating them that they don't have to become this, what I hate using catchphrases and terms. So let me just search for a better word to describe. I don't want them to be obsessed about food in the opposite way, which means I can only eat healthy. I can only do that. I want them to feel safe and comfortable to nourish their body the best that they can. And I'm just trying my best, because I had to go through an evolution myself, being an 80s and 90s kid, where everything that went into my body was microwavable or came out of a box. So for me to learn to cook foods and grocery shopping, that was a journey for me. So I get it. It's not something that a lot of people know how to do. So I'm just hoping to be that little bit of light for them and make it a little bit of decision-making, not so daunting and not so scary. And understand that their food sources come from some of the most crazy places. Like I just learned this week that most of their food meals came from gas stations, and they've never even been in a grocery store. So how do we do this? And it's like, we have to, just like everything, we have to start at the beginning. And I just feel like that is a part of my destiny, a part of my mission in helping people create a space where they feel good about what's going in their bodies. Because 9 out of 10 times we don't know. And 9 out of 10 times we're looking for that convenience factor. And that comes from buying and eating ultra processed foods. And those are the reasons why our country is just sicker and sicker and sicker. So we have a long way to go, but we can do it.
Yeah. And, some of the listeners may not have even clued into that, of seeing the challenge that, all that's in their repertoire, in their toolbox, is gas station. That's what food is for me. I have not ever been introduced of whole foods, ground foods, earth foods, and understanding that, like, I can eat something off of a tree that is much more nutritious than going into a box. Yet the other factor that comes in is price, because 2 apples will cost, even just 1 apple will cost more than what a box of fruit roll-ups would be, or what, any kind of cereal box. And so, the price aspect becomes very challenging. I'm curious, with these women, are you actually bringing them physically into a grocery store so they can viscerally feel what it feels like in that environment, but be, you know, made to feel safe that they're there with somebody, that they don't have to deal with all the stresses and anxiety and uncomfortableness of, I don't feel like I belong here, that somebody's helping guide them to, navigate through their own inner world while experiencing a new environment.
We're not there yet. They've all specifically said that they don't feel comfortable doing that yet. And I'm meeting them where they're at. So I'm doing my best to bring grocery store items to them. And just last week we talked about, Whole Foods, like a bowl of mushrooms versus a bag of shredded cheese. And we talk about ingredients. I don't even give a rat's behind about calories. That is not something I want to continue to talk about. I mean, listen, all of us as human beings are probably not getting enough calories in general. So that is not even, that's what we've learned our whole lives. Calories, calories, calories. And yeah, we need those. But people have such a negative connotation to calories. It's more about, if you can't read these, if you can't pronounce these ingredients, that means that it's fake. It's a chemical. It's not food, or it's a preservative added, all the things. So that's what the lessons in the next coming weeks are going to be about. Learning how to I'm all about convenience. You best believe I love being able to put my salad together, but that means I took some time. I washed and chopped everything and put it in containers. Those bag salads are crap. This is a topic I'm very passionate about, and I feel like I could talk about it forever, and I'm trying to stay focused on your question. So that's where we're at with that process. Taking the food to them is where they're comfortable right now.
Yeah, I understand. In future, is it something that's going to be looked at? Because can you relate to what I'm saying, that it's all great to tell somebody to go here, yet forgetting how it's no different than when a child starts school and going into this big institution, big building by themselves, and I don't feel like I belong here. And this is bringing up all kinds of things, of narratives that I don't know what this stuff is. I've never been exposed. So that inner critic could be really, the nervous system is in high mode of hypervigilance. And so just having somebody guide, of really mentoring and really walking through the process of letting them know, like, you're not alone, yet you have the capacity to experience these things.
Yeah, and I definitely want to talk to the coordinators about that. And now, and actually speaking with you about this, it makes me think that maybe when they're closer to graduating and going out on their own, that might be a great next step. Because I have women in my group that are literally 2 days into the program, and then that are halfway through the program. So I think maybe that's where they're wondering if the disconnect is it, because if someone's only 2 days in the program, they're still like going through their feelings and probably don't care about what's at a grocery store. But someone who's about to graduate and move in by themselves, that might be the right time for that. So thank you for the idea.
Yeah, it's really being trauma informed and understanding the nervous system and looking at all the things that would have you access convenience. Because when you're hypervigilant and you're in a height state, it's very difficult to have that neural energy to make decisions, to really get into your executive brain and be like, what is the intention of what I'm serving long term? When you're in fight and flight survival, it's all short fixes. Let me get out of this. I don't want to have to deal with this. And
Yeah.
so able to, and environments activate our nervous system. Like, you may have traveled many times, but you go into an airport, all of a sudden there's all these decision making. You may be okay with flying with a plane, but in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, this thing could crash or something could go wrong. All these things activate your nervous system. And the healing process that they probably haven't even tapped into. Like they're just, okay, let me get out of this. Yet to go backwards to see, well, how did I make these choices? Or how did I associate? And how did I degrade myself in a way to feel a sense of belonging, feel a sense of connection, feel a sense of worth? And so that is a very, I thank you for the trench work that you're doing. Nutrition is a big factor in it. And the human trafficking aspect, the work that goes on, this could be a lifetime of having to maintain and really shifting your nervous system in little manageable steps so it doesn't overwhelm. Because if you overwhelm your nervous system too much, you're going to go right back to what you were, because that's what was comfortable. That was what feels like home. Even though logically it was harm, it's what the sensation feels. And so really being able to have an open space of honesty, because healing can only happen with radical honesty. Yet a person needs safety. And it's having a space of non-judgment. And the non-judgment means that you're able to hold a space for them to disarm their judgment towards themselves. Because we go from out to come reflect back to ourselves. So thank you for the work and really taking this passion to help a population that gets disregarded a lot of times. Like women in general already have it really challenging. And then when you put in these factors, and most times anybody that was human trafficking, there's sexual trauma that happened at a younger age, or a type of physical and psychological abuse that just has them very manipulated. So to reconnect back into that worth, reconnect back into your life force can be very daunting, because it's like logically I know better, yet physically my body is addicted to these things and these people and these places. And really educating, oh, well, yeah, like it's the adrenaline, it's the cortisol, it's this belief system that you have about yourself. And we're going to have to dismantle all of this so that you can relate with your own biology. Does any of that make sense?
Oh yeah. I mean, yes. Yes. I mean, I was not a person who was trafficked, but I had my own path that, went in that process for me to heal from all the things that I had grown up with and dealt with my whole life to get to where I'm at today. So I totally relate to that. And I see how it does affect those women. So yes, I always sometimes feel like I'm not qualified to deal with this, but at the same time, I remember what it feels like to be alone in my story. And I think that's what keeps me going back to them. I may not be qualified to deal with some of the things that they've experienced, and I can accept that and I can be honest about that. But there's no way that I can't be there as another woman, as another, another person to put my arm around them and say, you're going to make it. You're going to survive this. You're going to get through this. So yeah, I really do. Who knew that Greenville, South Carolina was going to be the place where I feel most at home out of all the places I've ever lived, especially spending the past 16 years in Manhattan and dealing with all kinds of people. I was never presented with something like this. So I know I'm in the right place.
Yeah. And unfortunately, Manhattan doesn't, like, you have Central Park, yet there's not enough nature to regulate your nervous system. It's a very busy place that is always awake and very stimulating that you just become to adjust, and you don't realize how much it's ramping your system. And then go to North Carolina and it's like, for some, it'd be like, this is too boring. I cannot. And other people, they're like, oh, I can exhale. Like, this is what my biology needs. And I didn't even know I needed this. Is that what did did it feel like
No.
that from North Carolina or
No. South Carolina?
South Carolina. I'm saying North. Sorry, South Carolina. You're more closer to the warmth.
The interesting thing is that when I first left New York, I started having panic attacks. And I was like, what is happening? I lived in the craziest city for 15, 16 years. And now this is happening to me. And part of it was that. Part of it was all of that noise just kind of like separating it from myself. And now that I know what it is, and now that I'm kind of feeling, it's been 2 years since we've been here, a little over 2 years. And I'm finally feeling like I have a routine again, that I have my life back, that I'm, have a little bit more consistency with things, and I'm making friends. So things are starting to like happen for me here that I didn't actually have in New York. I had a great career. I had a great life. I met the love of my life there, but I didn't have friends. I didn't have, a social life. I didn't have, these kind of outlets for myself. So again, I truly believe in the universe and timing and everything like that. So, but it is nice to experience that whole body piece that I just never had in New York.
Yeah. To give it a simple term, there is a lot of aversion with stillness. And that's the reason why the panic attacks come in. Because you don't realize the busyness distracts you from the stillness. And you're aching for something, yet you just don't know how to access it. And then when you come to have it, what you require with stillness is to be tethered to your curiosity. Because if you don't have curiosity, uncertainty and unknown feel like a real significant threat, which it's true because you have no control. So the busyness makes you feel like you have control.
Mm.
Yeah, when you come into the stillness, you come to see, oh, like these are like things to maneuver through time, but really in the depths, I really don't have too much control over things. And that can feel very threatening until you rewire your system with curiosity and trust, like you said, the universe, and trust stillness and recognize, and it really, for myself, I had to work through the relationship of death and really have a different relationship with that, and to wire my nervous system with a different, because, your nervous system, the only function is don't die. So if you bring me into some uncertain, unknown places, there's a threat of death. Could be, income, support, housing. People think it's just your physical body, but death can be, your financial, your home, your friends, your hobbies, all these different things. That this is what brought some control and some comfort in my life. So thank you for that vulnerability of explaining, I had to go through that process, and how the busyness is great. of distracting you from really listening to what your body is trying to say to you and what it's calling out to you. And then all of a sudden, when you allow yourself to drop in more and more in the stillness, all these things open up and you're like, it was this easy all along. It's like, yep, yet you want to do it your way and you wanted to go that way, and it's okay. That was your defense mechanisms and the safety that you had to go through. Yet, it's the reason why I do this podcast, is to open up these dialogues so people can really start going into their portal, where you hear that in the spiritual world of the portal. And it's like, the portal is understanding your biology, because your nervous system and the beliefs that you're creating have a whole makeup of how you perceive and how you relate with the outside world, as well as in your inner world. If did that make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, I was just about to tell you, that's why I love, 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 and I read it and listen to it over and over again, because this book for me is to get me introduced to that letting go process. It's called The Untethered Soul, and I love that book so much. I mean, if I
Missing is
could,
great.
yeah, I love, and when I first read that book, it was just like, being like, it was just like mind blown. And I keep it on my audio because I need a reminder sometimes when I feel, especially when I was experiencing these heavy duty and anxiety attacks. And I'm like, what is happening to me? I mean, and I hear women tell me this all the time. It's like, I even went to the emergency room because I'm like, something's wrong. And when they're like, you're fine, I was like, well, what's happening to me? And so instead of getting on the pills or getting on the drugs, or I was like, okay, something's going on inside that I need to address. And I'm grateful that I have that awareness about myself, because that is the last thing that and I hate saying this because I get it, people need that. But Rachel, I don't want to be on medication. That is not something that I want to choose for myself. And so if I can help myself in any way, I'm going to try that first, and so to have that in my arsenal of ways to really dig deep, then it's a keeper. I will keep that book forever.
Yeah. He has a podcast. Do you listen to the podcast?
Oh, what? He does?
Yeah, I'll send it to you, because it's through Sound, Tammy Simon to Sound. Tammy Simon runs it, but yeah, he has a podcast. They did it through that. So it's all these, and he walks you through things and everything else. So I'll send it to you. Can I merge into your language a little bit? You don't have to hate to say what your choices are, because it goes against the narrative of the majority.
Thank you.
It's not minimizing somebody else.
Thank you, because I do feel like that sometimes.
I do too. Because when people are like, oh, it's easy for you to say that you meditate and you do this. And I'm like, I almost died 10 years ago, and I took out sex out of my life. I took out alcohol out of my life. I took out spending out of my life. I engaged with my emotional eating. So I faced myself to really understand the nervous system. So when I speak about the nervous system and people are like, where did you get your expertise? And I'm like, I faced myself and I got to understand from the inside out. And I also had, thankfully, my doctor had it of the mindset always of, we're going to find out what this is before prescribing you something. So I'm very thankful for that relationship with my doctor, because you don't always get that. It's always a prescription for something. And then I get it. I truly understand having panic attacks, having anxiety, having the pain is overbearing, and it can be very debilitating. So medication is needed. It's my thing is, when the medication is given and you're numb, are you using the tools to inquire what is activating it? And the majority of time it's a no. And I'm just going to go on a higher dose and a higher dose, because this thing is getting bigger and bigger. And it's like, well, your biology is trying to communicate something. It can be, the environment you're in, the relationship you're having with people or who you're surrounding with. And the one person you're always with is yourself. So having to see, how you're relating to yourself and how you've just taken it on like a piece of clothing, that berating and self-sabotaging yourself is just the norm. And medication is needed at times.
It really is. I mean, yeah, thank God we live in a time where that is something that we can take to help heal. But in my opinion, we have all become dependent on that, and we don't want to help ourselves. And I'm trying to like reword this in a way that I'm taking your advice immediately. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I'm a woman who I've experienced different things that have gone on with my body because of the things I put in my body. And now that I don't put those foods or those types of foods in my body anymore, I see a difference. I feel different. And if I can carry, like you said, that experience and share that with other people, then what the possibilities of us being responsible for ourselves and healing ourselves are endless, endless. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I just want, come on, people.
Yeah, it's that the sleepiness of not having autonomy and responsibility of accountability, and having we're lured to believe from a young age we don't know enough and other people know better than us. So if they're telling us to go this route and I have this pill and I have this thing, well, of course you're going to listen to that if you don't have critical thinking. And a lot of us have been disconnected from our critical thinking, our curiosity, and you are defiant by questioning things that we just, they have our best interests. And it's be careful with that, and right. Just empower, understand your own biology and have a better relationship with your body. I get pain sucks. Like it sucks. It's horrible. It's depleting. It interferes with a lot of things that the worldly world requires. Yet it's finding your own rhythm and really supporting your needs to be able to be your fullest self and be able to keep re-energizing that energy inside yourself. Where can the listeners find you? And can you please tell them about the book that you created?
Of course. Thank you for asking. I'm on social media under Rachel Lavin Lifestyle and Wellness. I rebranded myself at the beginning of the year because I realized that there are so many parts of wellness that we don't put two and two together. And I just started home organizing, and I'm finding that a lot of people that are being drawn to me literally stopped living, and they lived amongst all this chaos because of their trauma. Sorry, I still don't know another word for that, but
you gotta use that word.
And so by them being ready to deal with that and learn from that and move on from that, that comes from their living space. So for me, it was this comes so naturally to organize and purge and create a peaceful place. This is just another part of my story, and I love it. My book, The Donut Diaries, is available on Amazon, which is my story of how I experienced my body for over 40 years and, where I'm at with it now. And it's, again, not a diet. It's not a workout. It's just my story. It's a tool to inspire you that you can be free from all this diet culture of bull S.
Thank you. I want to bring you into a reflective question. I want to ask you to bring your awareness right now and go back to your 18-year-old self. And you have 3 words you can tell your 18-year-old self to carry you through the journey. What would those 3 words be?
Strong, safe, and honest.
Beautiful, beautiful. Are you willing to share what the intention you created during the meditation?
Yes. It was that our conversation was going to fall on your listeners' ears, and they were going to they were going to absorb it with an open mind.
Yeah. And we did get into that dialogue. We went into some great deep dives for people to see themselves and not be afraid of that and
Mm-hmm.
feel a sense of safety and security that, oh, I can expose some of my naked truths and it's accepted. It's not pushed
Mm-hmm.
away or shunned. Thank you so much, Rachel, for what you are bringing into the world and how you are sharing your light, your gifts, your services to others. And, like I said, working in the trenches of a population that just gets stigmatized and gets burdened with not getting enough resources or even a space, a sacred space of understanding and listening. And thank you for taking your own story so that it can help others. You really have done the alchemy. You have taken the impurities and you're turning them into gold. So thank you so much for that.
Well, thank you for seeing me. I appreciate that. It's nice to hear these words.
Please remember to be kind to yourself. Hey, you made it all the way here. I appreciate you and your time. If you found value in this conversation, please share it out. If there was somebody that popped into your mind, take action and share it out with them. It possibly may not be them that will benefit. It's that they know somebody that will benefit from listening to this conversation. So please take action and share out the podcast. You can find us on social media on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok under Lift Oneself. And if you want to inquire about the work that I do and the services that I provide to people, come over on my website, come into a discovery call, liftoneself.com. Until next time, please remember to be kind and gentle with yourself. You matter.